This is Robbie Dauterive with Louisiana Wrestling Now, and we're happy to come to you tonight with the first of our 5 off-season episodes. Tonight, man, we're going to talk NCAA Division I. The greatest tournament in the world kicks off this Thursday, and we're going to have Jesuit, 2-time state championship coach Jonathan Orillion, and my co-host Paul Klein and Ben DiPalma, and we're going to kind of break down the NCAA tournament just in a way to get you guys interested for the upcoming tournament this weekend. That and much, much more on Louisiana Wrestling Now. Welcome to Louisiana Wrestling Now. This is episode 1 of our 5 off-season specials, and I am joined once again by Catholic High Athletic Director Ben DiPalma. Welcome back, Ben.
Thanks, Robbie. Glad to be
back. And a new addition to the show. So I was doing my homework. We were looking at questions from fans, and they said, none of you dudes have a state title. We can't tune in and watch this show. So I needed the state titles to average out to at least one apiece. So I went out and got the first 4-time state champion in Louisiana history, and a guy who I know is very wrestling savvy and knowledgeable. Welcome to the show, Paul Klein.
Thanks for having me.
Man, look, Paul, we're looking forward to having you. You know, former D1 wrestler, although a bit brief, but I know you made some real close connections there. You're ready to talk wrestling with us. And, man, we're excited to have you on moving forward. So, guys, man, it's been a good start to the offseason. We had a great day yesterday. I went out and filmed just a bunch of really good Louisiana kids at Mid-City MMA with Nick Shields and Carlos Bertot and kids from around the state. They are just getting better. Tonight, we're going to talk NCAA wrestling. And, guys, you know, we're not going to get super in-depth. I know, Ben, as an AD at Catholic High, man, your time is very probably squeezed, but, you know, I know you keep up with the sport and you have some ideas of what's going on. Really, what we want to do is we want to generate interest among our fans and parents out there. You know, and some things that I would have ready on Thursday. First of all, if you're in school, I'd have that DVR ready. But if I'm a wrestler, man, I'm going to have my notebook handy. I'm going to jot down notes. I'm going to remind myself to go back and watch certain matches. You know, Paul, growing up for you, did you get a chance to watch much Division I wrestling, or were you kind of a novice to it when you got into high school?
Oh, no, I watched it. I mean, you're talking about the best wrestlers in the country wrestling on TV. Now it's on TV, it's on ESPN, so it's even easier, and they have Flow Wrestling. So, I mean, there's no reason that every high school kid and grammar school kid should not be recording these matches. I mean, you got guys, 31 seeds who could upset number 1 seeds. That's how talented and small the margin is for these college wrestlers in Division I now.
Yeah, it's so great. You know, you can watch every single match on ESPN Plus. I'm going to date myself here. As a 1984 graduate, how did I watch the NCAAs? Wide World of Sports, hour-and-a-half highlight wrap-up show, probably a week or two later after the tournament, was the only way to watch it when I was in high school. And then we started getting coverage of the finals. Ben, when you hit high school in the 90s, what was the coverage like, and how much did you get to experience?
ESPN used to cover the finals that Saturday night, so we would watch those. This was the late 90s, so we would always watch the finals. But we get to see those guys, and it was really cool because, you know, at the time, you know, Iowa was still the big-time program, and I know a lot of guys from Catholic, and we had some guys from Brother Martin come with us. We would go to Iowa every summer for wrestling camp, and so the guys that were our counselors right? We would be watching that Saturday night. Half of them were in the NCAA finals. So it was a really neat experience to say, like, hey, Doug Schwab was my counselor. Now I'm watching him try to win a national title. So it really expanded there. And I think by the time I got into coaching in the early 2000s, that's when you started getting the semifinal round on ESPN as well.
Yeah, look, it's funny you brought that up because my high school counselors, Mark Schultz, Dave Schultz, and Dan Shade. And it was really cool when you found out, whoa, man, my counselor made the finals. So look, the three of us are excited. I mean, this weekend is the Super Bowl of wrestling, the toughest tournament in the world. When Vito Arujau, world champion, goes in as a number 6 seed, you know you've got a serious tournament in front of you. So we're going to take a commercial break. We're going to be back with Jesuit head wrestling coach John Orillion.
Serving Mandeville and the greater New Orleans area for over 20 years, Dr. Lesisher offers a wide array of dental services, from full mouth rehab and orthodontic aligners to simple fillings and porcelain crowns. She'll treat your entire family for all of their dental needs. With a first-class dental office offering the latest in digital technology, she's also a leading provider of Botox, D-Sport, and fillers across the metro area. And for all you wrestlers out there, she can provide you with a custom mouth guard. Visit the website or call to make an appointment today.
And welcome back to Louisiana Wrestling Now. We're going to kick off this segment. First of all, congratulating Jesuit coach John Orillion on his second consecutive state championship. You know, Coach Orillion, man, I think the biggest thing of winning that second state title and moving to the offseason is getting a little time to unwind and relax. What have you and your team done to kind of celebrate a little bit, kind of blow off that steam from the season and just do a little celebrating?
We get our 2 weeks after we have that week of school, and then we go into Mardi Gras break, right? So obviously you're not starting anything knowing you got a week off there, but we got back into it. After Mardi Gras, we jump back in. We got moving a little bit. We keep the stress level down. Obviously, it's not mid-season. It's more about just wanting to get on a wrestling mat and get better and, tweak some things. But for our case this year, going 3 for 8 in the state finals left a lot of our guys pretty hungry. So they were itching to get back on the mat this year. It's nice winning that team title and all, but a lot of those guys missed out on that individual goal. So they're kind of itching to try to get their hands on top of that podium, So we're back moving around right now, but nothing crazy intense. A few guys went to Iowa. We had a few guys wrestle in the kids folk style state tournament, but it's just kind of one day at a time right now and setting different plans for different guys.
Yeah, I think the ultimate goal for a lot of our wrestlers is to get them to that next level. And that was the purpose of tonight's show. That's why we brought in D1 guys, NAIA guys, junior college wrestlers, and current wrestlers, because we want our wrestlers here in Louisiana to dream about getting to that next level. Coach, what do you tell your team? ESPN's got pretty much wall-to-wall coverage Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Are you guys doing anything as a team? What are you doing to encourage your guys to go out and watch the best kids in the country wrestle?
Yeah, the last couple of years, little groups have gotten together, right, and they go watch, but a lot of it's just talking about it. I print the brackets out. I leave copies of the brackets all over the locker room, so those guys are picking them up, looking at them, and a lot is just talking and educating those guys. And fortunately, down here, we don't have college wrestling, right, so they don't get that opportunity to see it in person. So it's reminding, hey, there's a duel on tonight. There's the Big Tens was on last weekend. Just pointing those things out, and some guys are going to pick up and watch. And I've got a good, core group of guys that really enjoy watching the college and the world level guys. So it's first year down, it was introducing a lot of it to them, but now that, they're kind of hooked to it. That's the fun wrestling, right? When you see those, people think the 3-2 matches are boring, but when kind of understand what's going on in those 3-2 matches, I mean, those are pretty intense matches to watch. So it's just trying to make them knowledgeable and just understand that, hey, this is out there. You can watch as much wrestling as you want nowadays,
Yeah, so let's start off, man, with probably the craziest weight class that we've seen in NCAA wrestling in years. I mean, preseason number one gets knocked off. Their losses in this bracket to high school wrestlers in open tournaments. I don't think the number one wrestler in the country sat in the top spot for more than a week or two. In the end, it's a true freshman, Braden Davis from Penn State, comes in as your number one seed. So we've got the top half of the bracket. The preseason number one, Matt Ramos, is at number 4. And, man, Ben said he's been put in about 2 hours today. So, Ben, kick us off, man. What do you see interesting on that top half of 125?
Well, I think the weight class itself is so many freshmen, right? I mean, your 1 and your 2 seed are freshmen. Davis didn't catch Ramos in the Big Ten. Ramos lost out in the quarters, and he comes in, and Davis looks like he's an 8th grader, right? And comes in for Penn State and wins the Big Tens. What I think is going to happen, I think everybody's focused on the top half of this bracket, and I think Ramos is going to catch Davis, okay, in the semis, and I think Ramos punches his ticket to the finals. But I like Luke Stanich, the freshman. I feel like he's the guy that, watching him in his conference finals match and kind of dominate a guy that he was in a close match with 3 weeks ago. I think he's just hitting cylinders at the right time. So my pick in this would be Stanich. Okay,
and Paul's going to probably go with Figueroa of ASU. Right,
I
Paul?
do like Rich. I do like Richie. I think he's talented, but you also a dark horse for me. He's not really a dark horse, but he's had a weird season. He was actually out of the starting lineup for a little bit. I do think the NC State guy, Kamayo, tough.
Yeah. Talk about a kid who bounced back from setbacks.
Yeah, and it's all a mental thing. I did say after this whole bracket came out, I said I was not going to pick the 1 seed at this weight to win because I just don't think it's going to happen. That was like a curse.
And how about you, John?
I'm gonna tell you, whoever comes out of that, Camacho, Eric Barnett from Wisconsin, DeAugustine from Michigan, and Stanich from Lehigh, I think is winning that bracket.
All right, and let's say if we can flip to the bottom of the bracket real quick because we kind of discussed it all. So here's some thoughts for me. DeAugustino's beard is very troublesome to me. Okay, I've talked to mindset kids all over the country. They're like, Coach, if he put that beard in my face, I don't know what I would do. I mean, we need to shave that beard for one. The number 1 seed, we need to brush up on this kid's interviewing skills. I know he's young. He was mesmerized the other day by the reporter from ESPN who was probably a 10. I mean, Paul would have made talk with her right away. I know you, Paul. You would have gotten a rap going, whatever. Braden didn't know what to say. And then Drake Ayalia, man, get to your offense. Let's see some offense, man. That kid's got all the takedowns in the world. But I do agree with you guys, man. Luke Stanich has had a great freshman year. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be absolute chaos. We're not going to know who wins this bracket to Saturday night. So let's jump on to 133. All right, here's a guy, the number 1 seed, top of the bracket, Dayton Fix. Man, I know one thing. This kid served his time. 3-time NCAA finalist. Last year, man, Vito just dismantled him in the semifinals. But, man, I think he's a kid that you kind of root for. John, what do you see on the top half of the bracket?
I'm going to tell you what, they couldn't have given Fix a tougher draw. Bazakis, Frost gave him a great match in the Big 12 finals, and he's going to catch him. Hopefully Frost is in the quarters with him. And then Ragusin from Michigan. I mean, that guy is gas tank central. I mean, that guy is just going to push. But I do think Fix ends up out of that top side on that bracket.
Ben?
I mean, I'll tell you who I like is Dylan Schauer from Rutgers out of this. I mean, I feel like I'm on hometown this, right? I want to see Evan beat Fix in the quarters, but I think that match wears Fix down in the quarters. And so I think Schauer comes out of this side of the bracket. I have him winning the whole thing, actually.
All right, so before I go to you, Paul, here's what I love about the NCAAs. Here's what I love about having traveled with Brother Martin. Braxton Brown is a Trey Colada tournament champion from Allen, Texas. Little baby-faced Braxton Brown came in and won it as a freshman. By the way, who beat Allen in that tournament, Paul?
We did.
We did. Okay, Braden Basile. He was on the Prep Slam team from Jesuit of Florida who beat us. Braden and his brother, excellent wrestlers. But, man, I'm with you guys. Look, I said it before. If Evan Frost is seated in the top 8, he's going to All-American. I don't know if he's going to get past Dayton Fix, but I know one thing. He's not going to lose to anybody seated higher than him. And I think he pulls an upset in the tournament and gets in that consolation semi one way. Man, he's just getting better and better. Ben, what do you see here?
Yeah, I'll say like Dylan Shower from Rutgers. That's my guy.
That's your guy. All right, let's go to the bottom of the bracket. John?
I'll tell you, I think Vito comes out. I don't know if Crookham can get 3 wins on him this year. I think Vito and Fix are going to be my picks for the finals at 33.
Yeah, look, I look at it like this, dude. If you got to go through life with those ears, man, you deserve to have your best tournament at the NCAA tournament. I mean, look, I love Vito. What he did last year was inspiring. If you're a wrestler out there and you have not watched the Vito Arujá story on Flow Wrestling, you're selling yourself short. Okay, go out and watch it. Paul, what do you think?
I think Ryan Crookham should have been the 1 seed, if I'm being honest. I mean, you beat Vito twice, returning national champion, world champion. You beat him twice as a freshman. I mean, Dayton Fix, don't get me wrong, he's deserving of the 1 seed, but should have been Ryan Crookham.
Sorry, Paul.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead,
yes.
Paul.
I like Nasir Bailey as kind of like a dark horse guy. I think he's super talented, but I'm with Jono. I think Vito makes it out at the bottom side. But I think Vito beats Dayton if he makes it to the finals and wrestles Dayton.
Ben?
I have Crookham coming out. I think Crookham beats Vito here and punches his ticket to the finals and ultimately loses in the finals.
Yeah, look, man, we got to go Vito one more time. Vito just doesn't – he looks like he's been injured. He doesn't look like the same guy. I noticed in the EIWA finals, man, he's standing up. He's way too high in his stance. That quickness – he didn't really release until he had to in like the last 15 seconds when he went into that sprint, almost like he's holding back. Maybe 2 weeks of conditioning have helped him out. But, man, once again, I think it's going to be a great battle at 133. Let's jump to our next weight class, 141. And the number 1 seed, man, Jesse Menendez of Ohio State. Number 4, you've got Ryan Jack of North Carolina State. Anthony Iacomita of ISU. And Sergio Lemley of Michigan, and then there's just a bunch of studs in there with Brock Hardy and those guys. John, what do you see here?
Man, topside, it's a hard pick between Mendez and Enciamida for me. I think Iowa State's going to pull that off. I think they're in the finals on that top side. Bottom side, I got to go with Bartlett. I think Penn State, it's hard to bet against, man.
Ben?
Yeah, I've got Menendez and Ekamita in the quarters there, with Menendez winning that and punching his ticket to the finals. I'm sorry, the semis. And then I got Bartlett and Real Woods down on the backside with Bartlett winning and getting to the finals. And I think Bartlett gets the match back from the Big Tens and he beats Menendez in the finals.
All right, before I go to Paul, I got to point out number 20 seed Tom Crook, also on that Jesuit of Florida team. Man, we really had the opportunity to see some great wrestlers, and that was the big advantage. And Coach Orillion gets that traveling around, right, Coach, and facing the best kids in the country. I'm going to say this 100 times on this show: if you're not going out looking for losses and looking to face the best kids, then you're not going to get to this level. There's no way, because none of these kids. Or maybe one was undefeated in high school, but if they hit that national circuit, they wasn't undefeated. Paul, what you got?
I'm kind of with everybody in here. I will point out, that I think Bo Bartlett in his second round match, if he has Cole Matthews, that's going to be a tough match. It's hard to bet against the Penn State guys, so I have Bartlett going to the finals, but that's a tough match right there at the bottom side of the bracket.
All right, man. Let's go to
let's check
Mendez
out at the top.
Yeah, there's our bottom side of the bracket. So, guys, we were talking about this in the pregame show. Does Iowa get a finalist? It's a streak of over 25 years getting an NCAA finalist. This might be their only, say it, Paul, real chance. This might be their only real chance. Let's go back to 141 real quick. Okay, so you got Real Woods. Man, Kenny pull an upset on Bo Bartlett. I think that's what it's going to come down to. I think Bo Bartlett's going to the finals.
Yeah, I got
149. All right, 149 class. There's a guy that does not get a lot of media attention, but he's just, man, he's a grinder. Ridge Lovett, one loss on the year from Nebraska. Got Caleb Henson from Virginia Tech. Ty Waters from West Virginia, and Swiderski of ISU, once again, with a bunch of really good guys mixed in there. John, who do you see coming out, making the finals at the top half at 149?
Man, top half, it's a hard pick with Lovett and Henson, but I think I like Henson in that match. And I'm watching him this year. I'm a big fan of Caleb Henson right now. And I think he winds up in the finals there.
All right, Ben, top half. Who do you have?
I got to love it. I mean, I get what I get what Jono is saying. I've watched Henson wrestle a couple matches this year. I just think Lovett's been really consistent, and he's one of those guys like Robbie, you were saying, that flies under the radar. And those guys just seem to always deliver, like the guys that aren't in the spotlight that just come in with these huge records, 24-1. So I have Lovett taking the top half.
Yeah, Paul, what do you have on the top?
Top, I'm with Jono. I like Henson. I don't know. I think he's got a little bit more explosive with him. Lovett is very good on top. I am sad to see we're about to get to the bottom side, though. I like Kyle Parko, obviously, but I hate the Gomez matchup.
Let's go to the bottom. And that bottom, man, you got Parko, of course. Paul's going to be quick to point out that ASU wrestler at the bottom. You got Jackson Arrington of North Carolina State. With Pat Popolizio, my man, stayed at my house before his last match ever. It was at the Olympic last chance trials here in New Orleans. I was there with Pat for that. I got to go out with him after and have a good time. But, man, what a job he's done at North Carolina State. 7 conference champions this year. And, man, it's become a destination. So, I kind of like Jackson Arrington in that bracket. Ben, who do you have?
I actually have Austin Gomez coming out on this side. I know he hadn't had a lot of matches this year. Everything I've ever seen from him, I really, really like. And then there's one guy here, the kid from Cal Poly, Chance Lemire. Like, I don't know. I watched him wrestle a few matches, and for me, he's a lot better than a 10 seed. And so I just think he's one guy that could maybe mix it up in the bottom half here. But I have Gomez coming out.
All right, yeah, and I didn't see Gomez there. I'll be honest. I agree with you. I think Gomez, man, what he did at the Olympic qualifier to the former Penn State wrestler, his name's slipping my, Nick Lee. He dismantled Nick Lee, qualified that spot for the Olympics. Gomez is really wrestling well right now. John?
At this point, Paul, real quick, because I don't even have Parko making the semis. I'm going down to Cossack because I don't bet against Penn State at the NCAAs. But I do have Gomez making the finals there.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's jump to 157. Man, number 1 seed, Levi Haynes. He's just so consistent. He finds ways to win. He doesn't get rattled. Ed Scott, been at North Carolina State, seems like forever. One of those names that's been there, been a stalwart there for Coach Popolizio. And then you got Ryder Downey from UNI, always tough. And, man, I think the guy that everybody's pulling for. I mean, talk about adversity. Peyton Robb had a bacterial infection last year. He's lucky to be alive. Less than a year ago, this kid was pretty much in critical condition, and he's back wrestling D1, and he's going to have a very tough Will Llewellyn in that round of 16 match. Paul, who do you have here?
In the top half, I got Levi Haynes. I mean, he's got a really tough draw. I mean, because you said it. He's got potentially Brock Mahler. We were talking about it before the show. Jono mentioned that, and then he's got the winner of Rob and Llewellyn. I mean, that's tough 2 first matches off the jump.
Ben?
Yeah, I got Haynes, and I kind of, to echo what Jono said, I don't really bet against Penn State at NCAAs until proven otherwise. And I'll probably say that again 4 or 5 more times in the rest of these brackets. But until somebody actually knocks off one of their 1 seeds, I'm gonna go with the 1 seeds.
And Coach Orillion.
I was telling you before. I mean, the second round of this bracket is insane to me. The matchups in here But I do think Haynes has proven he's the best guy in the weight class. So he's my pick on that top side to make it and to win it ultimately.
All right, let's jump to the bottom of the bracket. And you're going to see Ja'Cory Teamer of ASU. But, man, I like Meyer Shapiro. You know, he's been a guy that they've talked about on Flow all season. You know, he came in with these huge accolades. He had one or two tough losses in the beginning of the year, but, man, he's really bounced back well. Paul, who do you see coming out here?
Oh, this is tough. I like Meyer Shapiro. He does have a smaller gas tank some matches, you know, that you see him get a little tired, but he does usually build up a huge lead. I mean, if he's in shape and his offense is clicking, I mean, it's hard for any of these guys to catch him because he can put up 5 points instantly. So I probably got to go with him.
And?
Yeah, I would really like to say Teamer here just because I got to watch him when he was at Virginia Beach his senior year, dismantle people. But I've got Shapiro coming out. And the one guy I put the asterisk by is Frantic. You know, like you were saying earlier, can Iowa sneak somebody into the finals? It wouldn't shock me for Frantic to wrestle out of his mind here on this bottom half. I think this bottom half's a little more susceptible than other parts of the tournament that we've gone over so far.
Yeah, John?
Bottom to me is harder to pick, but I don't know if they've wrestled yet this year, but I'm really curious if Teamer can get in there, the Teamer-Haynes match, because I do think Teamer's a problem. I think Shapiro's going to struggle with the Chittum match.
Yeah, look, I think regardless of what happens, I think Cody Chittum is definitely a dark horse to come back and win a 14 seed to get in that top 8. I mean, he was a solid Iowa commit before jumping ship at the last minute, it seems like, and heading over to Iowa State. Man, there are some names in that top bracket. Frantic, that bottom, Blaze, Teamer. It's going to be a battle to get that final spot. So that takes us through the first half. Coach Orillion, we're going to bring Ben Kristonis on for the second half. But before we let you go, you know, there's a question that I have for you here, because this has been a topic of conversation among Ben Askren and the Flow crew this year. In high school, you know, we try to cap our guys at matches. You know, I think 60, 70 is a bit much, especially if it's against really quality competition. I think 20, low 30s is maybe not enough in high school. So there's a sweet spot. In college, it seems like they're wrestling less and less. What's your feeling, man? What's your sweet spot for your team in high school? And what do you think about these college guys? Where do you think they should be heading into the NCAA tournament?
You know, if you look at a lot of the college records, right? Like Starachi doesn't have a lot of matches, but a lot of those, sometimes in the college scene, a lot of those guys are like Gomez, right? He went to Mexico. He's qualified his Olympic spot for Team Mexico. So they're missing matches, but they are wrestling matches, right? They're just doing them in other places. I mean, personally, you know, I don't necessarily pay attention to the amount of matches. I'm definitely a quality guy over quantity. You know, I think if you're wrestling 50, 60, 70 matches, but you're kind of dominating most of them, is that really benefiting you, right? But I think you could tell we were kind of getting to a point last year towards the end of the year where you could see like, man, this is kind of a lot of matches for us. And I think a lot of our guys were starting to get close to that 40 range. So I think the way I set up our schedule, 30 matches to 35 matches is kind of what our season is, and piling in some of these tougher out-of-state tournaments and things like that. But I think a lot does depend on the individual too. You know, guys just want to be on that wrestling mat, you know, and you stick them out there 60, 70 times in a year, they love it, you know. So I think a lot is judging your kids. But I mean, as far as how we're running our program, that 30 to 40 range is really our season for most of our guys.
All right, Coach. Well, look, thanks for joining us for the first half. We'll be back after this commercial break.
Serving Mandeville and the greater New Orleans area for over 20 years, Dr. Lessishare offers a wide array of dental services. From full mouth rehab and orthodontic aligners to simple fillings and porcelain crowns, she'll treat your entire family for all of their dental needs. With a first-class dental office offering the latest in digital technology, she's also a leading provider of Botox, D-Sport, and fillers across the metro area. And for all you wrestlers out there, she can provide you with a custom mouth guard. Visit the website or call to make an appointment today.
All right, welcome back to Louisiana Wrestling Now, man, and we've knocked out half of our NCAA preview. Now we're going to bring in an absolute Louisiana wrestling legend. He's our guest tonight for our next segment, but we wanted to bring him in because he was never allowed to play with the big guys because he was always in the low weight classes. So we brought him in to talk about weight classes 165 and up. He's Ben Kristonis, 3-time state champion from Tara High School, 2-time junior college All-American, junior college national champ, Division III third-place finisher, and Division I starter at the University of Iowa. I don't know many guys coming out of Louisiana, Ben, that have a better resume than that. Congratulations, dude, and thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks, Robbie.
And the great thing is, Ben's from Tara, so they don't have the wireless headgear yet. So we still got the wires. Hey, look, dude, the Catholic school guys, we're going to get together here. Ben's got so much money at Catholic High, they are going to send you a pair of wireless headphones.
He will.
Just from the state championship T-shirt money that he rakes in every year.
Look,
can you hook him up, Ben?
Look, in the back over here if y'all want some.
First time I've opened. Look at this. I have an iPhone 8, and this is the first time I've opened. Look.
All right, well, here we go. 165-pound weight class. All right, guys, top half of the bracket. Now, look, this weight class should be on pay-per-view by itself. And why not just take the top 4 guys and go round robin and sell that? Because, man, number 1 seed, 2-time national champion, Keegan O'Toole. Number 4 seed, national champion, multiple All-American, David Carr. And then you throw in Dean Hamidi, Andrell Taylor, and a whole bunch of other D1 studs. And, man, you've got a serious top half. Paul, who do you have coming out the top?
I mean, I got to go with Keegan O'Toole, and he's my champion too. I don't know how that guy is just next level. All these guys are uber talented. David Carr, you got Dean Hamidi, Peyton Hall, but it's hard to pick against Keegan O'Toole Ben, I'm stealing the line from Ben, but until I see otherwise, I got to go with him.
Ben, who do you got?
Same thing. I got O'Toole. As crazy as this weight class is, right, and the talent in it, I think this weight class almost goes scratch on Saturday. I've got 1 and 2 in the finals, and I've got 3 and 4 in the semis with them.
All right, and I'm just going to call you Mr. Kristonis because we got 2 Bens on. Mr. Kristonis, who do you have?
Of course, I have Keegan O'Toole. I watched him wrestle against David Carr in the Big 12 finals with scoring from all those shots that Carr got in on, and then he just kind of pulled it away, and you saw at the end he got that last takedown. He was kind of winking, I think, to his coaches. I think he's really feeling it. Last year he lost to Carr a few times, and then he beats him at the NCAA tournament, and he seems like he's just on a roll. And I think Peyton Hall is a pretty good wrestler. That might be a pretty good match, but I mean, Keegan O'Toole is probably going to come out on top.
And is there anything better than watching Nate Carr in the background while his son's wrestling? It's over the place, all over the place. Let's go to the bottom of the bracket. And here we go. Now, I wasn't really happy when Julian Ramirez sat out the rematch. He wrestled that day. He was going to wrestle David Carr in the dual meet, and they sat him. And that was obviously to protect that seed. Hey, and it worked for him, but hey, look out what you asked for, because this Mitchell Messenbrink he goes for 10 minutes, not just 7. I expect Messenbrink and O'Toole to have a classic battle in the finals. Mr. Kristonis, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a tough bracket. You have Ramirez, who I've watched him wrestle a few times this year. He is very good. And then you have Caliendo, another Iowa guy who I believe he placed fourth last year in the NCAA tournament. And if there's another guy that can come in, like they said earlier about Franek, he is one. But you have Cam Amin, I'm sure is going to be ready to fire off to have a great last year of his NCAA tournament. But watching Mitchell Messenbrink this year, I look at Mitchell Messenbrink and Ramirez in the semis, and I have Ramirez over on him on that one.
Okay, Ben?
Yeah, I got Messenbrink and Ramirez in the semis with Messenbrink going in. I don't know why. I just think this one goes scratch.
Paul?
Yeah, I got Messenbrink beating Ramirez, but I think Messenbrick's going to have a tough match, whoever wins out of Isaac and Cam Amin. That's going to be a very tough match. I mean, you got the Okie State guy who's a hammer, and Cam Amin, I mean, you know what he's done on the world level. He's, last year, the guy's seasoned vet.
And look, if you don't follow this sport closely, I think this is a story worth hearing. Ben Askren, who runs Askren Wrestling Club, Mitchell Messenbrink and Keegan O'Toole are like sons to him. Keegan O'Toole's high school coach was Mitchell Messenbrink's father. He loves their family. And the fact is this, they both realize that if they have to go out and wrestle each other, they're going to want to rip each other's heads off, and they're going to give each other a big hug after. And this is just proof that, man, you can be the best of friends in this sport. But when you get out there in that circle and everything's on the line, hey, there's nothing to hold you back. I think we got a Hollywood movie here. This finals match, I'd love to sit 10 feet away from Askren while he watches this, because it's going to have to be difficult for him if these two guys get there. Let's jump to 174. Top of the bracket, and if you ever complained about Louisiana wrestling seeding, stop. Because our seeding this year, maybe a couple of hiccups, but I don't know what seeding criteria can put Carter Starachi at the number 9 seed because he was injured and he defaulted 2 matches. Put him at 6. As Coach Sam used to say, if my guy can't go 2 or 3, let's put him 6. And Carter Starachi at 9, man, you've got 3 national champions in the top of the bracket, 3 former national champs. Only one guy's getting there, man. Carter Starachi with the quote of the week. I'll wrestle all 32 guys over the course of 3 days, and I'll kick all of their butts. Makes for a great story. Mr. Kristonis, who do you have?
I have Carter Starachi coming down, taking out that one. He's gonna beat Makai Lewis. He's gonna, and you'll have Shane Griffith. And also Pat Kennedy, again, I'm going with the Iowa kid here, that he is actually a really good wrestler, as everybody's seen. Hadn't had quite the year he's had, but he is a good wrestler. But I have him and Shane. I have Starachi and Shane Griffith wrestling in the semifinals here, and Starachi taking him out.
Yeah, and remember, Shane Griffin banged his ankle up bad, had a forfeit in the Big Ten finals. 2 weeks later, we don't know where he's going to be. Ben DiPalma, what do you have?
And Shane Griffith's as old as Paul Klein.
He is 26.
I think same thing as I said earlier. Like, until you show me that one of these Penn State, national champs going for his 4th one can actually be beat, I'm going with him. The Shane Griffith things, I want to put Shane in the semis with him. I think he's hurt worse than people think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I've actually got McCoy beating him in the second round, not because I think McCoy's a better wrestler. I think he's really hurt. We haven't heard him for 2 weeks. So I got Starachi coming out in the top half.
PK, who do you have?
Yeah, if Starachi's 90% healthy, I'd have to really see him lose before I pick against him. So I got him making it to the finals over there. And then I have Kennedy beating Shane Griffith on the other side. I think, again, Kennedy's a little bit more banged up on that ankle. Griffin is a little bit more banged up on that ankle. And Kennedy, like Kristonis says, a tough wrestler.
All right, let's go find our runner-up on the bottom of the bracket. In the bottom of the bracket, there's one All-American. I believe that's Peyton Miko of Missouri. He's the only All-American. He comes in at the 22nd seed. Hey, man, I think I'm going with the Pennsylvania freshman, Rocco Walsh, who is as good as they come. for true freshmen. So I'm going with Walsh as a surprise to make the finals. Ben DiPalma?
Yeah, I've got Davis. I love South Dakota State, so if I can pick one guy from them, I think he does it. I do agree, though. I think this side is pretty wide open. I like Ed Ruth too from Illinois. I'm going to just go scratch here and says that Devos comes out the back end.
Ben Kristonis.
I'm with DiPalma here. Cade DeVos, his brother wrestled at Wartburg. I know him, rode around with him when I was up there a good bit and met Cade. Cade is a tough wrestler, hard-nosed. He's going to become prepared. It's going to take a lot to beat him going into that finals. But I do think he can have a match with probably Welsh or even the Ruth from Illinois. That's going to be some tough matches for him, but I think he can get there by beating them. One of them.
Paul?
Yeah.
I got the winner of the Welsh-Mako match making it through this side. I like those two guys. I think they're tough.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Rocco Walsh, he's legit. Tough Pennsylvania kid. All right, let's jump to 184, and you've got a dominant dude up there at the top. Parker Keckheisen, Trey Munoz, Morgan State at the 4 seed. Lenny Pinto, who's, great at catching people on their back. And, I think Parker Keckheisen, another guy from the Aspen Wrestling Academy, just too tough. And I think he's going to have a real good battle with Munoz, but I see Keckheisen making it to the finals. Paul, who do you got?
I like Trey Munoz, Coach Pendleton, Corey Crooks over there, wrestled with those guys. So I'm hoping he makes it through. That's my guy.
All right. Ben DiPalma?
I've got Keckheisen. I'm kind of with what you said, Robbie. Like, that dude's a stud. Like, I don't see where he loses in this tournament. I do have Pinto, though, making it to the semis, the kid from Nebraska. I think he's going to pull the upset in 5-4.
All right. And Ben Kristonis.
Let me tell you guys a quick story. This weekend, I was at the Iowa Nationals and talking with Doug Schwab, and Parker Keckheisen's there. And because I went to practice with him Saturday morning to see him working out the guys and getting them ready for the NCAA tournament. And I'm sitting there with Doug Schwab and Parker. And I said, man, he's firing off all cylinders. Parker looked great, good spirits. And he goes, yeah. And I told Coach Schwab, if I win the national tournament, he has to enter the Masters tournament.
Oh, wow.
And Schwab says, yep, I do not know if I'm doing that. But I have Parker Keckheisen. We've all seen him wrestle, man. He's been wrestling like a hammer. And watching him warm up and watching him drill a little bit before they did a big sauna workout. He's pretty impressive.
Hey, man, and wherever there's great wrestling, Ben Kristonis is going to pop in. That's awesome, man. Let's go to the bottom of the bracket. All right, so at the number 2 seed, you got Salazar from Minnesota, who's he's just consistent. And what a tough kid, hard to score on. Dustin Plott of Okie State. And, man, I think guy who gave Keckhausen a good match in the All-Star meet was Bernie Truax of Penn State, man. So we'll see who comes out there. Ben DiPalma, who do you have?
I've got Truax. I think Truax gets to Salazar in the semis, and he wins that semis match. I just feel like we kind of said it earlier, that Penn State magic in the NCAAs. I think that just pushes him into the finals.
And we know Paul's got Tony Negrin of ASU. No,
I don't. He's not. He's not.
Okay. Who do you have?
He's not
Paul?
winning the first round matchup.
Yeah, Paul.
I want to pick Salazar here because he is tough, and like you said, he's very consistent with how he wins matches and he wrestles his match. But for some reason, I'm torn. I want to go with the Penn State guy in the semis here.
All right, and Ben?
I'm going to be the lone person here. I'm going with Dustin Plott, the 3rd seed. I've watched him work out a little bit when I was in Kansas. He came down and did a camp, and that guy's a true machine and a guy who lives and does everything right. And I think he wrestles really, really determined. I think he comes out on that side and wrestles Salazar and pulls the upset.
All right. Let's jump to 197. Aaron Brooks is going to win the Hodge and he's going to win the tournament. Ben Kristonis?
Yes, you are right. He is. That's a 2028 Olympic champ right there.
All right, let me ask you this.
I said that.
Does Aaron Brooks beat David Taylor in the Olympic trials?
I don't know about this year. Not this year, but he won't be there in 2028. So.
All right. Yeah, I know. Look, a lot of respect between those two guys. You know, they train together, former teammates. Man, Aaron Brooks has been legit since he was in Maryland in high school. Paul Klein?
Yeah, I'm going Aaron Brooks. He's not beating David Taylor right now. David Taylor's the best in the world.
He is. Ben DiPalma.
I got Brooks. This one also is going scratch for me.
All right, let's go to the bottom. Hey, man, Trent Hilday, though, is a stud. He's and not only that, man, I think he's a Jersey kid, right? Pretty sure he's a Jersey kid that loves to put on a show. And, man, if anybody can compete with Brooks and keep it close, that's your guy. I see him in the finals. You guys all agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hidley and Sloan in the semis, but Hidley takes that out.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Hidley pulls that.
Let's jump to heavyweight. And top half of the bracket, you got a guy, man, he just seems to get bigger and bigger. But I did hear an interesting stat. Colton Schultz and Nash Hutmacher, they both weighed in at their last tournament at 286 and 287, respectively. So in the NCAA tournament, where you usually get a heavyweight coming in around 250 and 260, and that first round bout, man, you're going to have two really big boys going at it. But I see Penn State coming out of that bracket. Ben Kristonis, who do you have coming out of the top?
Yeah, I have Kirk Vliet wrestling Feldman in that quarters. And Feldman's a tough wrestler. They had a good little match, at the Big Tens. Big, and he's a freshman too. But I do have Kirk Vliet come out the top wrestling Schultz.
Ben DiPalma?
Yeah, I've got Kirk Vliet and Schultz in the semis with Kirk Vliet coming out on top.
All right, and Paul?
I got to go with the train, Colton Schultz. I'm taking him.
You going with Schultz, the Greco?
I'm going with Schultz.
He's our Greco rep in the Olympics. And
yeah, I think he's tossing them to win the match in the semis.
All right, well, if we go to the bottom of the bracket, I'm going to go with my upset here. I'm going to go with Younger Bastida in an upset in the finals over Penn State. He's going to win a close match in the semis against the great American hero, Wyatt Hendrickson. But, man, Bastida's got an edge about him. He's knocked off 6 or 7 guys ranked in the top 12 this year. I mean, there's a big Cuban kid with an attitude who bumped up from 197. Actually, in New Orleans last year, Iowa State bumped him up in the last match against Cornell to try to win the dual meet, and he just gave up a little too much size in the end. Ben Kristonis, who do you got?
Man, I really like that. I like Wyatt Hendrickson coming down. He's going to wrestle that Zach Elam. Zach Elam's a tough kid. I don't know if he's big enough and quite good, but he's going to give him a good match. But Younger Bastida and Hendrickson, and I know I have Hendrickson winning that one.
All right,
I like Bastida, but Hendrickson's going to win that one.
I've got Bastida as well. I agree with Robbie. I don't know if he wins the finals. I think that's going to be a really, really good match.
Athletes. Paul Klein, you got Colton Schultz in the finals against one of these dudes.
I got Colton Schultz in the finals. I'm going Wyatt Hendrickson. I'm with Kristonis, but I hope we get to see Younger and Greg wrestle. At the very least, if I don't have them in the finals.
So let's really go out on a limb real quick and pick our team runner-up. Because our team champion, pretty sure, is going to be Penn State. Real quick, without an explanation, Ben Kristonis, who's your runner-up?
Iowa State.
Ben DiPalma.
I was going to say Iowa State, but Kristonis stole my thunder. Thanks a lot.
Paul Klein.
Oh, man. I was also going to say Iowa State, but I'm going to go with Ohio State.
You know, man, I was going to say Iowa State too, and
that's bad.
I think our guy
Yeah.
Frost is going to make a run, and I'm going Iowa State too, man. Hey, we got a Louisiana guy out there. We got to go with his team, right? All right, guys. Look, great job. We'll be back after this commercial break.
Serving Mandeville and the greater New Orleans area for over 20 years, Dr. Lessishare offers a wide array of dental services, from full mouth rehab and orthodontic aligners to simple fillings and porcelain crowns. She'll treat your entire family for all of their dental needs. With a first-class dental office offering the latest in digital technology, she's also a leading provider of Botox, D-Sport, and fillers across the metro area. And for all you wrestlers out there, she can provide you with a custom mouth guard. Visit the website or call to make an appointment today.
Welcome back to Louisiana Wrestling Now, and I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Tune in to the NCAA tournament live Thursday starting at about 10 a.m. on ESPN, on ESPN Plus all day, Friday, Saturday, the championship final Saturday night. So, man, Paul, if you had one thing you're really looking forward to at this year's NCAA wrestling tournament, what is it?
Man, I said it earlier, the level of talent and the margin for error with top to bottom from 1 seeds to the 32 seed, like these guys are the best in the country at wrestling. So if you're a wrestling fan, if you're a student of the sport and you're not trying to watch every match and nerd out over this, you are missing just an incredible knowledge and wealth of wrestling technique and just passion and getting over that mental hump of winning like the toughest tournament in the country.
Ben, what are you going to be looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I always like, every year there's at least one really great story that comes out of the NCAAs, and that it won't be. I'm sure there'll be at least one this year, but it's going to be somebody that we didn't talk about on this show, and somebody that nobody expects. It's going to come out and make a run and get to the finals, and it might be from a small school that doesn't get a lot of representation out there. And I always just like to see that because I think it just reinforces the idea that no dream is too big, right? And the history is not written yet. So I always like those kind of stories at these tournaments.
Awesome, man. So, look, we'll be back in about a month. We're going to recap Virginia Beach. All you wrestlers out there that are heading to Virginia Beach, put your plan together, have your routine set, manage your weight cut, and go out there and represent your state as the best you can. This is Robbie Dauterive telling everybody good night, and we'll see you guys next month.